In this video, I just wanted to show off, I guess this would actually be a first edition of the Holman Christian Standard Bible. I believe this is one of the earliest ones printed. It's a ultra-thin Bible Classic Edition. I really wanted to highlight actually just some of the differences in this first edition versus the later editions of the Holman Christian Standard Bible and make the point that they're not the same, even though they had the same name, Holman Christian Standard Bible. Even before its update to the CSB in 2017, where they did the name change, there were differences between the first edition and the later edition. But this one here, this is what the box looked like, and it lists out the features on here. It is a two-piece box. This one actually retailed for $39.99, and the cover description is black and tan suede duotone. And then it has here information about this Bible. I'll be honest, I actually think out of all the Bibles in the Holman Christian Standard family, including the Christian Standard Bible, all of those translations, I think I like this one the best overall. And I'll show you some of the features that I kind of lean toward myself, I prefer. And I like the Christian Standard Bible. It's one of the translations I promote because it is a little bit more dynamic or functional. So you get really clear English, smooth English, but still really trying to be accurate and literal when necessary. So the spine here has that black color, and so this part of the cover is almost more of a rubbery feel. Not my favorite, but I do love the color scheme. And so you see how the spine looks there, kind of ornate looking. It is a really thin Bible. I like that with thin lines when they're nice and thin. And then I like the two-piece cover here. I do love the feel of this part of the cover, that suede, that tan color. And it is perimeter stitched. So I think that looks really spiffy, really unique. And it does have just a simple ribbon. Ribbons have actually overall gotten nicer from most companies. But back in the, around 2004 is when this Bible was made. Yeah, this was a typical ribbon. It does look like it has a sheen on both sides, but very narrow. Nothing all that special. It does have gold page edges. And this is a $40 Bible approximately retail when it came out. So this is a mid-range Bible, and I do think the material in this is good quality. You got more of a vinyl paste down here, black. And if you know the older Holman Bibles, this will be familiar. The Holman Christian Standard presentation page, the family records pages here. So all that stuff. Here's the title page. Books of the Bible. This is printed in South Korea, and it says it's the first printing 04. So I think this would be at least the first edition of the ultra-thin reference. The Holman Christian Standard Bible, the copyright here was 2003. I thought they really started coming out with their editions in 2004. So this may be actually one of the earlier printings, if not, the very earliest printings, I think. So you have the books of the Bible here. A plan of salvation. I don't really like the way that I see what they were going for, an acronym with the word faith. It's okay. But at least you have that. It is a tool. And then you have an introduction to the Holman Christian Standard Bible. All right, because this is out of print, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on all the details of this. I just really wanted to show you what it looked like, and then show you some differences between this and the later Holman Christian Standard Bible. So it is a double column format. What I like about this is the font is actually really quite a nice size. The printing in this is, not perfectly consistent. There are some places where it's a little bit more faded, I would say, but it's acceptable. And in some places, it's really good. I think this looks good here. It's not line matched. Bibles back then typically were not line matched. The notes at the bottom of the page are good. Holman Christian Standard Bible notes, really think they're great. Holman Christian Standard Bible carried, I think, this throughout the time that it was called that. The Holman Christian Standard Bible had these dotted words to signify that in the back there is a dictionary definition help for that particular word, because they thought people may have a hard time understanding it, knowing exactly what it means. So what's the difference between this and the later editions? Well, the font, the style of it, that's a little bit different, and I do really like this as far as the presentation of it. But one of the differences that I wanted to show actually has to do with supplied words in English. So I'll try to find something here. But there are places where you will actually see if they supplied a word in English that's not grammar oriented, because they definitely made, some additions to wording here and there, or maybe changed the wording a little bit. But if they just really added a word as a translator to make it clearer, they signified that actually. Similar to what you see in the King James, New King James, and the New American Standard Bible. But they didn't do it with italics. So I don't know if you've seen it yet, but occasionally you will see it, and in some places you'll see it actually quite a bit. They actually have these corner brackets. So all the people of, it says all who were around them, and they added here the people of Israel. So I think those are actually supplied words by the translator, not technically in the original, but there for clarification. And that's the kind of thing you would see in the New American Standard, except that would be in italics instead of those corner brackets. I really like that corner bracket idea. Now, coming to my mind, and I could be wrong on this, I almost think that the NIV early on did something like this too. Here you see it again, the word consequences, corner brackets. So some of the supplied words in English have those corner brackets, and I think that's a neat feature that was not carried over to the later editions of the Holman Christian Standard Bible, to my knowledge. Now, another thing the Holman Christian Standard Bible was known for is a fairly extensive use of the name of God translated as Yahweh. When you go, though, to places that you would see it as translated as Yahweh, what you'll see in this edition, here you'll see in verse 11, it says, the Lord spoke with Moses face to face. And then down here, verse 19, it says, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim the name Yahweh before you. So here you do see that translated as Yahweh. However, it's a lot less extensive than what you see in the later edition of the Holman Christian Standard Bible. I think they did the update in 2009. So I think here would be an example in Genesis chapter 4. At the end, it says, at that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. And here they translate it as Lord in caps. In the newer editions, I believe that would say the name of Yahweh. That's one example, though, where this wasn't as extensive in its use of the name Yahweh. It had to really specifically be referring to God's name for them to translate it as Yahweh. Although there, you could argue, it says the name of, why doesn't it say Yahweh? So you can see they were a lot more reluctant to use Yahweh in the early editions, but they did do it some, just not as much as in later editions, where that became really actually something that they marketed this translation about, was how they translated the name of God. Let me show you one other difference here too that I think is kind of indicative of just a different approach earlier on. That's in the Beatitudes. I pointed out in my videos comparing the Holman Christian to the Christian Standard that the Holman Christian actually, in the later editions, said the poor in spirit are blessed. They switched that around instead of starting with the word blessed in the Beatitudes. Here you can see in the early edition they started with the word blessed, which is what they now have in the Christian Standard Bible. So in some ways, the Holman Christian early on, at least in this instance, was more like the Christian Standard Bible. But later editions, they were trying to really get that word order to be just like we would typically say things in English. I think this is better. So for those reasons, as well as just the things that I liked about the Christian Standard Bible, I like the fact that it does capitalize pronouns for deity. That's not a deal breaker for me. I could go either way with it, but that is a nice feature at times to have. And Old Testament quotes and New Testament bold print for those. And just I think a very readable but accurate translation with good footnotes. To me, it's a fantastic translation, but this particular edition of it is probably overall my preference of all the editions. Yeah, there's some things I like even better about the Christian Standard Bible, but this definitely has a lot going for it in my mind. So that is a look at a early edition, one of the first printings of the Holman Christian Standard Bible. I thought you might be interested in that. If you have any questions about this or things you'd like to give as input, I'd love to see that in the comment section. But thank you so much for taking a look at this with me from a fresh perspective.